Welcome to the Real Recovery Show. We are every Friday at noon, and all of our episodes are different. We talk about different modalities and different struggles that people have, and we also interview people who are inspiring and have a great story to tell. We've interviewed therapists and authors about different things that you can try to help heal from PTSD and multiple addictions. And we've also exposed, I actually just talked about exposed the different 12-step programs as well, and to let people know the different rehabs that are available, etc., here in Las Vegas. And today, we are going to interview somebody who has spent basically most of his life in entertainment. And a lot of times when you think of somebody who is always needing to be on, or there's somebody who's on stage, that you think of that as synonymous with drugs and alcohol, and rightly so. A lot of our favorite musicians are people who have had a very rocky road with alcohol and drugs, and more we're finding people getting sober and being very public about it. And so, I was never a musician, but having been in the exotic dancing industry, everybody was doing something all the time, whether it was customers or other dancers or people that owned the club or anything. And I was that weird one that was dry while I was working, because I was a control freak. And then I would get off work and I would immediately go get the whatever and the whoever and the do with that whatever. And then I would go to sleep, and then I would wake up in the morning and I would drink coffee and I would work out and rinse and repeat. And I did that for many, many, many years, for a long time. And so I don't know. I think it's. I think that the whole industry, the party atmosphere, the excitement. I've known a lot of musicians over the years too, and I think I've only known one that was sober, and not because they got sober, because they just never touched anything, which is just that's different too. Anyway, so today we're going to be interviewing somebody who has 34 years clean and sober off of all the drugs and alcohol, and but yet he's been a musician for over 50 years. And he's not going to tell you his age. You could do that math on your own. But it's Scott Van Zen. And so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We're going to start by hearing a little bit about, little Scott, you growing up, and what happened when you started to get exposed to drugs and alcohol, and when it started to really click for you.
All right. Yeah, I grew up in a crazy house. I wasn't the black sheep in an Ozzie and Harriet house. Our whole house was black sheep. My dad was absolutely batshit crazy. He took these pills. He drank, and he took these pills called Black Beauties that were speed, and he took them by the handful. And he got really violent, so there was a lot of that going on. And I blocked out a lot of the memories of what was going on, but I do remember, my mom drank a little beers, but she drank them constantly, and then that got worse later. But my dad, tearing the house, just all of it apart. Cops were at our house all the time. Gunshots inside and outside the house. And I found out that, for me, if my parents were fighting all the time, if I made them laugh, that they wouldn't fight. So I started, I was a little kid, and I was doing impressions of my school teachers, and I always had a kind of a knack for wit. I don't know if that'll happen today, but I guarantee it's true.
Make us laugh, funny man.
Yeah, exactly. But they wouldn't fight if they were laughing, and I guess probably sparked the entertainment side. But I never really thrived to be an entertainer. I just liked that I like to be around happy people. That never changed. Now, while my parents were out of their minds, they were also very talented. My dad. He was a blue collar guy, but his IQ was way up there. My mom bought some encyclopedias from a guy, traveling science.
I remember those. I remember those. Let's say
he memorized the entire set. I mean,
wow.
he really knew it. And it's like he loved World War II stuff. So
Sounds
if
like
you
my
asked
dad.
him something about World War II, he could like recite it. The other thing he memorized was the Bible. He had that. There was an actress on a show that I saw that had that. I'm like, my dad has that, where he just remembers every word of it, right? And he's really funny and real charismatic. My mom was very creative, and that's probably where I got the. And I heard I had some uncles like that and stuff, but that I didn't know. And but they had these parties, and they would have a lot of alcohol out, and I was just snagging it and making drinks. And then I was doing that a lot. Actually, I thought about that. Right after I stopped drinking, I was like, I used to drink a lot when I was a kid. I would like steal their alcohol a lot and then like fill it up with water, but they went through so much of it that it's like, I don't think they noticed. I remember they had a party one night. I was probably 11 or 12 years old. And I made a drink in a mason jar, I remember. Like, I was just a little kid, and I just put some ice in it. I just started pouring everything that was on the table, and it was all this cheap, like, Popov vodka and Christian Brothers brandy, all this stuff.
All into one.
And I went out in the lawn. I was drinking it, and then I woke up to the sprinklers like I passed out. I just got hammered. But it didn't make me want to go, oh, I ain't going to do that. All the normal kids would go, well, I'm done with that, So I just, I kept at that, and then we started getting into weed, and
when did you start playing instruments?
When I was 11.
So right around the same time?
Yeah, and what happened with that, okay, so it was so crazy. I was like different. I knew I was different, and I hear that a lot from my other people that I know that are sober, that we're just different. We just bang a different drum. And I... sorry, I need some of this. I had cancer a few years ago, and my throat gets really dry. So if you see me reach for the water,
Okay. No.
I'm all good now. But,
Okay.
I'm sorry, you asked me.
Yeah, about, so it's so interesting because, so I've known the people that I've talked to who are musicians or actors or whatever, or even like a skateboarder, like we interviewed somebody, like there's something that happens when we're young that like we feel like we have like an attraction to this thing, whatever it is, and it's part of the thing that helps us to cope, whatever it is. Like it's another outlet for us. It's a thing that makes us feel normal. It's a thing that gives us a sense of consistency, reliability. We can always go back to that thing. And you would think if that was enough, maybe alcohol and drugs wouldn't have been so appealing, but it is a thing that we were doing when we were young. And so did you feel that way, like when you started playing instruments?
Well, what happened was, because I was just introverted, even though I was funny and stuff, I was, then I would as soon as I grabbed a guitar, it just
came alive.
Yeah, for me, I would just, I'm still doing it, and I just got really good at it real fast, So I'd hear my parents fighting, and I would just dig in, and I was like, right away I was playing like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours every single day. I'd get home from school. Then later I started just cutting school, and but I remember one night my dad coming down the hallway with an axe. He had this hatchet. I'm like, I'm gonna die. I mean, I thought I was gonna die. I was a kid. I would just keep playing. And like, it's probably why I get really good tone now. I'm simulating these near-death experience through the amp, And then I never, this is the thing about, it's funny because I've always been an I love happy people. Like even now in Vegas, I play in a couple of bands and we do medleys of 70s and 80s music. and just people are just reliving their memories, you know. And we're pretty popular around town, and we played in showrooms and different places, you know. And it's a great thing. But I never played to be an entertainer. I played because it saved me mentally.
Yes.
I had no guidance, you know. My dad would make jokes about the Bible. I thank God I didn't have religion like shoved down my throat, because my friends that did, like, they're really seem to have gone through a lot more crap than what I had to go through, because they didn't care, you know. It's like I got arrested one night when I was like 15, and I was just in a car. These guys were spinning donuts and stuff like that. My dad picks me up at the police station. It's like 3 in the morning. He says, "Just for that, you're not going out anymore tonight." You know, I'm like, 3 a.m. You know, so.
Oh, Dad.
Yeah, come on. I was like, come on, you know.
That's really interesting. There's a lot of similarities about us. I also felt like I was going to die in my childhood, and my door hung off its hinges. My dad was a rager, and he didn't do speed, but he definitely had anger issues, definitely. And I also found like my things I needed to do, and my dad was a genius as well, you know, like, and he. Like I went to him for like help with social studies homework once.
Yeah.
And he looked at the book and he goes, "What is this shit? This is not even true." Like, and he wants to correct.
Right, sure.
I'm like,
and he's probably right.
I can't listen to you though, because I need to pass this test. But this teacher who believes in what we're
the
learning,
fake shit.
so you can't actually help me, because you're gonna ruin it. You're gonna screw my head up. Okay, and so so you started getting into weed, and you started drinking. And I remember we had an 8th grade play, and I had already got a perfect score in a San Francisco jazz competition with a jazz choir. We were in the 8th grade, and we had this really good music teacher. She was the one that got us into the music, and we got a perfect score all once, which was nobody had gotten one in a while, you know. And then, so me and the 2 of the guys that were in the jazz choir, we played in this 8th grade play, and we were bringing it. I mean, for a bunch of kids, you know, we were actually pretty good. But all of us got hammered and thrown out we got kicked out of the play, you know. Oh.
Yeah. You know, in the 8th grade, right? And I remember this one girl, I won't say her name. I should though, but she lied and said I didn't drink, they did, and she went on the trip. Like, we couldn't go on the 8th grade trip. I remember that. And I was always, the thing that bugged me about that was not being able to go, was that she lied and said she was, you know, who are you? You were right there getting hammered with the rest of us, you know.
Okay, and so then as you progressed, you got into what kind of music? And
well, after that, I kind of just sat in the room, and I was like a really chubby kid, you know, fat kid, round face. So I had a lot of friends. The girls were friends, you know. They were like, "Hey, buddy," and I was funny. I got funny, and that was probably part of it. And that was just a defense mechanism that I had. And then I wanted to lose weight, okay, because I was going to get my driver's license. So there was an over-the-counter diet pill called Apidrine. I remember every girl
lots of caffeine.
Lots of caffeine and an appetite suppressor.
Interesting.
They were selling. They couldn't keep them in stock, because once I was doing it, like all the girls in our school were.
Wait, you know, what's happening to Scott? He's shaking.
Yeah, I lost a ton of weight, and then I got my driver's license, and then I played the high school homecoming dance. And I'd been, like, other than the 8th grade, like, I had been gone for 3 years, but that's all I did. I was really good. I played by the way, during this time, I wasn't not playing. My mom I was like the lead guitar player in this band at, you know, 13, 14, and everybody else was 25, right. 20. And I remember this one club where it was just packed with Hell's Angels, and we were the only car out front, like our car, and then just Harleys, you know, and I was doing that. Oh God, I lost my train of thought. Where was I at with that? So I played this high school dance, and like everybody was like, you know, an instant rock star in a little town, because we didn't have much going on. So I got real popular, but to me it was weird, because like all the girls started treating me different. they were kind of chasing me, and I'm like, what are you doing? Punching in the air. Cut it out. Why are you acting so weird? Cut it out. You're freaking me out,
Yeah.
And I never, like, to me, I always treated everybody, I always felt like I just knew them, which is one of the things I love about the music. It's just so honest, because it doesn't matter what anybody thinks with their politics or all the shit that pisses them off, because if you play something they like, they're instantly your buddy, And I think that was one of the big part of it for me as well. But I never played music to be an entertainer for popularity. There's a difference. There's great entertainers, but musicians that end up being entertainers are different, because they can go into a room. I went into a room for 20 years and did music for TV and ads, and just made money and rode my Harley in the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee and did that. And then when my daughter grew up, because I didn't want to raise her in L.A., then I went back to being out there.
That's really interesting. It is different, because your experience is not dependent upon other people. Your experience is just you getting into that headspace and tuning in and being fully present and just doing what you're doing.
I didn't realize how important music was, because it was always about, I chased a lot of stuff, and I did some cool stuff. One of the things I got to do this was after I was sober, and I'll go back to how that happened, but is because I didn't drink. Gene Simmons was my manager in a band for a little while, and he was shopping us around. We were kind of an 80s sounding band, and the grunge was taking over, so he didn't get offered enough. We got offered a lot, but not quite enough to do the deal. But after that, I ended writing a lot of songs with him. I ended up with some gold records, writing Kiss songs with Gene. But Gene liked hanging out with me because we got along. He was a funny guy anyway, very, very smart and all that, but because I didn't drink. And I wasn't, and he never drank, ever.
Oh, he didn't?
He just never touched anything. But, he'd call me, go, hey, let's go hear some bands, And I'm like, okay, he'd just pull up, and I'd get in and I'd run around town. I just thought he was kind of like Gene, your buddy Gene, like Uncle Gene. He really was a grounded guy.
That's wonderful.
Cool guy, too. But anyway, and I know I got to go backwards too. You're going to take me backwards, but I've been sober for so long now. Like I was pretty young when I got sober, so it's like even when I was using and I played, I didn't use when I played. I'm saying after I would do something, but I never drank at shows or I was
like I said, I totally understand that, because
you just said it.
I needed to focus.
Yeah.
I needed to be present. I needed to know what was going on, and I made really crazy money because I was focused.
Yeah.
And I wasn't putting myself in a position, but I was afraid that if I did drink or do drugs, that I would have people doing things that I didn't want them to do.
Yeah.
I was very much controlling about that. Not that I didn't do things that people would say I shouldn't do, but I definitely wanted to control who, what, where, when, etc.
Yeah, I felt the same way, and I even then, I guess I would say, as far as my hitting bottom, it was way higher than a lot of people on the actual drinking and drugging side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. Even though it's to a normal person, they'd go, my God, you were out of control. And I'm like, yes, but you don't know some of my friends,
right.
Guys
compared,
that are half their life in prison and, stuff like that. And these are absolutely like my family.
We actually did an episode on bottoms that, it really doesn't have anything to do with what's going on, whether you lose your house or your car or the people in your life. It's the mental. It's when your life gets so intolerable to you that you have to have another life.
My friend who OD'd, he had 12 years and he OD'd 20 plus years ago, but he was very wealthy, and we had a ball in LA. I mean, we had every available, sober, like helicopters, jets, millions of dollars. He was very, but he was at a meeting, a group in, Europe and with a lord, an English lord who was sober, and he said the way this guy's bought him was his butler that raised him, right, said, "You're drunk, my lord." Like that just floored him that he would have the balls, oh
to
my
speak
God,
back to him.
sobered, right? That was it. That was his bottom. Some people are like,
that.
they killed somebody in a car wreck, but that was, I love that one.
It just has to be something that's intolerable to you, and everybody's different in what they value. So, I don't know. I think when you consider somebody being a low bottom, not to get off on this, but when somebody's considered a low bottom, we say, I went past all the things that I would have thought should have made me stop. I
did
consider
that.
myself, then you're a low bottom because a warning, a bad experience was not sufficient to stop me, and it needed to be, I ran out of options and people for me to do something different. So how did you get into all of your addiction? Like when did it click
Well, you got
for
introduced. I was in a small town and got introduced to it. So
yeah, but when did it click for you? Like when did you know? Like for me, I was standing in my parents' house and I was at the bar in the house. They had parties and everything was disgusting and open bottles and like there was nothing there. And I felt like there should be more alcohol available there. And I said to myself, wow, like I really have a problem and I don't have a solution and I'm so uncomfortable in my own skin. Like I had that kind of awareness and I was just like, but I really don't have any kind of way. I guess this is just how it's going to be. And there was just this resignation, that, okay, then I'm going to do this because I have to. And I was really, really young. But everybody's different when they click, when they have that moment, when they go, wow, where have you been all my life? And
so you're talking about your sober moment.
No,
when you
I didn't
loved
even get
it.
sober. I just resigned to being an addict. I just resigned to it because I didn't think that there was a solution.
I can't give you the moment of that other than I was real young and it's like one of my best friends to date, and he still drinks on and off, and his dad was a big preacher in our town, and he was kind of an outcast. We used to go just ask people to go in and buy us alcohol. That's what you did.
Yeah.
Guy would go in and get you a 12-pack, and he'd grab one for himself, and it pissed you off because there's two of us, and who's going to, we got to share the last one, you bastard,
Yeah.
I just loved it, and it started with drinking, I mean, I got into weed, and I got into coke, like I was telling you. I tried cocaine 2 times. The first time was from 1981 until 1984.
Yeah.
Second time was later that day until 1989 when I got sober. But I was started with drinking. I just loved it, man. It made everything go away. I hated life then. It's just like I went to school. They were weird, rednecky kind of, which I'm kind of rednecky.
Where did you grow up?
Ripon, California, a little farm town.
Okay.
But just the
feeling of different.
Well, and it was like I was in an episode of like, what's that Kevin Bacon movie where he's dancing and
Footloose.
they're all, you know what I mean? Like because I just
nobody wants to dance.
They were
Nobody's
just like bully.
dance.
I was always very. Like I didn't like hunting, I don't want to kill anything. Like I'm just
that's okay.
and
you don't need to kill anything.
But I'm saying that was a part of the thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm not into it. I don't care if people hunt. I get it. You hunt. You want to okay. That's not. I don't care. But like I was sensitive to my environment. Always. I always had. I got a pretty high IQ, and you're not like my dad, but it's up there and sensitive to what was going on. So the drinking and getting high kind of tamed that down a little bit, which was helpful, And then as I went away to Hollywood to go to guitar school, and same thing, just drinking and stuff like that. But then when I got back, that's when I started, somebody gave me a line of Coke, and a girlfriend. She was a horrible influence. I don't know if she's alive or dead. I'd love to find her just to see what she's been up to. But even with Facebook and everything, I've never heard from her.
So what happened that it started getting out of control for you?
Well, it was when I started doing there was the bikers would make this stuff called crank, and it was like speed, but it was this horrible stuff, and I just loved it because I could play guitar for 4 or 5 days in a row, and that's what I did. We played. I was in a very popular band in Central California. We played, and we'd stay up all night. We did this every week, and then we'd smoke weed to kind of come down and chill for a couple of days, and I did that for like 5 years,
Yeah.
And some pretty ugly stuff happened there, and I evaded prison and some bad situations that shouldn't have happened, like I should have got caught, with illegal shit, and I didn't.
Did you, when you were on your up, did you ever have anger issues? Did you ever have rage or anything like that?
Toward the end of drinking, I noticed that I could get really angry.
Like quick, right?
Yeah, but it was not there. It's like around some of the people I hang around, they talk about crossing that line. When a cucumber becomes a pickle.
Right.
And I noticed that a couple times. And
well, our adrenal receptors get super sensitive. So yeah.
I was pretty happy drinker up until a certain point. And then I just switched to weed. Why not? I'll go. Let's see I was in seat 4F on the Titanic. I'm going to go sit in 3M.
No, pot was definitely one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah.
At this point, we're going to go and we're going to take a break. Please remember that the opinions expressed here are strictly those of the people who gave them and do not represent any 12-step program or should replace your own intuition or professional medical advice. See you in a bit. The Meeting Space is a facility with over 100 weekly recovery meetings for addiction from alcohol, drugs, sex, food, gambling, codependency, and PTSD. When someone is scared to go to their first meeting, we walk them through the process, ask them and answer questions to assuage their concerns. Many are court-ordered to attend, and we provide free court papers and teach them the process. Our glass-enclosed, soundproof children's playroom enables parents to be in a meeting while watching their children. We have healing workshops, craft fairs, and special authors who come to teach and sit with our fellowships. During COVID, we were declared an essential business by the County Commissioner's Office. We were kept open so that we can continue our daily work with traumatized chronic relapsers and those who would have used alcohol or drugs in isolation. Local businesses rent our space as well to financially help with this mission, and they get to have a great location for their business meeting or training. The recovery store in the center of our facility provides literature, clothing, medallions, and custom gifts to encourage, aid in, and celebrate a person's recovery from alcohol, drugs, PTSD, or unhealthy behaviors. Both the recovery store and the meeting space are open every day, including holidays. Saving lives, educating the community, reducing social stigma, providing a safe place for people to heal. Our nonprofit is supported entirely by donations by people like you who want everyone to have a place to go to heal. Welcome back to The Real Recovery Show. Please remember you can watch us on Facebook, YouTube, and on Amazon Fire TV. You can listen to us on the PHLV radio app. You can get our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And you can go to themeetingspace.com and you can click on any of the videos there. We have all of them listed. And if you're interested in being on a future show or you have an idea for a show that you'd like to see, please fill out the intake form or write to us through the contact form as well. and share this video with anybody that you feel could benefit from it and help us get the word out. So thank you very much for joining us. Before the break, we were talking about what led up to the bottom, the experience that you had where you felt like it wasn't, it was no longer good for you. But before we get to that, did you feel that doing alcohol and drugs helped you to fit into the entertainment world?
Yeah. I mean, we were all doing it, and it was normal. And I'll tell you this. So, like I said, I had this band that was very popular. I mean, we played, we had residencies at a couple of clubs, but this one club was a 1,000-seater, and we packed it every weekend. It was a big deal. And one of the guys in our band was using needles, and it got out of control, and we decided that we needed a break, because it was just, we were constantly, we had all these people that partied with us too. Out of these, there was a couple hundred regulars, So we're going to go to our sound man's parents' cabin and dry out, I guess. But our version of that then was we brought an ounce of weed,
just 20, to titrate.
20 cases of beer. I remember having this conversation with one of the other guys going, yeah, I'm not going to do crank anymore, just Coke, if anything, because the crank is too, like, yeah. And I just remember getting hammered at this thing. Like that was our, who wouldn't go to that?
That was your rehab.
Oh, yeah. I could have sold that. It's like, I got a rehab you want to go to. If you're not ready, it's called the
you should call it the
not ready
the Titanic.
Yet. Yeah.
The Titanic rehab. Yes. Would you like to switch seats on your Titanic?
Yeah, come on to the...
Is the drug of choice that you have been using really affecting you? Come join us at the Titanic
Iceberg.
Rehab.
Yeah.
We will get you comfortably into another addiction.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
I had this wild girlfriend, kind of a biker chick, but she took me down some bad paths. I was younger than her, and she was very exciting, But I eventually, one night, she was off doing God knows what. I kind of know what, but God knows what too. So I just grabbed my stuff and I threw it in I had a little Volkswagen. I still have that Volkswagen. It's at my sister's house. I loaded it up, and with what little I had and left. And I had what I would consider a bit of an epiphany and a spiritual awakening, but I didn't know that it meant that I needed to clean up. I didn't do anything for a while. I mean, it was, I had periods.
What happened though? What happened in your spiritual awakening? Your aha?
I had this sense of God that I never knew existed, even though I was told about it. I was like anybody else, just kind of chasing whatever was fun. I was really young.
This awareness, this like kind of out of self experience.
But it was 3 years before I actually stopped, and then I had this. I remember having a sense one night in this where I wasn't doing anything, I wasn't drinking or taking anything, where I didn't stop thinking, but everything went away for a few seconds, and I had this feeling that anything was possible, really, like anything was possible. I could, if I had to do an appendectomy on somebody, I would be guided through intuition to pull it off, and it would be fine, I know that sounds weird,
no,
but that's what it
I totally understand exactly what you're saying.
Like, wow, everything that you ever want to know is already here in this moment.
We have access to it
no
all.
fear. I had no fear. Remember years later, this is kind of long saying, this guitar student of mine, this girl, she said, I remember one time I was skiing and I hit my head, I ran into a tree and it knocked me out. When I woke up, I was like the most free I'd ever been. I go, I get it. I went through that. I'm like, So, but then I got back into, I moved to LA and I was alone, other than my cousin who was older and getting married, but he was great. He was a good influence on me, talking about positive thinking and stuff like that. I didn't know about that. I didn't know you could actually guide your whole shit by what you think. Right. Nobody told me that, And, it's true, and, looking back, like I remember this. I had this another wild girlfriend. I'd get these wild girlfriends. It's amazing what having a guitar in your hand will bring, girlfriend-wise.
Yeah.
But she had
We
these.
do like the guitar. We do. We like the guitar.
It's true. It's true. The guitar will bring the more wild girls, though, I got to tell you, because the singers get the and the guitar players get the get in, get in. They're always driving a muscle car or something, you know. Okay.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm going to be evaluating that myself later.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's funny. Like when I date a guy and like, or I meet somebody and they play the guitar. Oh, they ride a motorcycle. Oh, and then like all that. And you're like, oh, and there's a part of the mind that goes, should this be on your list?
yeah.
So you can't help what you like.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, side note, I just sold mine when I moved to Vegas because I'm like, I don't want to die.
Yeah, here in Vegas?
I'm starting to have fun.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I almost bought a motorcycle during COVID, and I'm glad I didn't financially wise, but I told myself, you know, the only places I'm going to let myself ride are in the back roads and by Red Rock. And I was like, because I'm not going to drive in the traffic, and I'm not going to want to drive in the heat. And I'm like, so maybe we don't get a bike.
Yeah, don't get one.
How about we don't?
Yeah.
How about we use this money elsewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me it was the camaraderie. So, you know, side note, but I got to ride the best roads in the South, the Smoky Mountains. I did that. I put 50,000 miles on that thing, and I sold it. I
could see when I do get a bike, just joining other people and doing it that way. I think that's the safest anyway.
Yeah.
To ride in a pack.
Yeah, you get a few of them, you know.
Yeah.
So
anyway.
I went to this group one night.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's a nice group, but I don't need this.
Yeah.
And I had a neighbor that I smoked weed with all the time, and he liked music, and you know we were good friends. And I go, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. And he handed me some weed. I go, I'm done. I'm not ever doing that again. And he goes, well, flush it down the toilet then.
Oh, and you took it though.
I took it and I was walking toward the toilet. I'll show him. And I put it in my bong, which I looked over the bong and I go.
That wasn't the toilet.
But here's what happened. I went, wow, I did not want to do that.
Yeah.
I did not want to do that. And you know, I just grew up, my parents, my mom was really she's very Catholic. I was raised Catholic, you know, and my grandma and all that. But I was never really into the religion. I just think it's another control thing. That's my deal. Sorry, folks. That's my opinion about religion. But I rolled off of this futon. I remember I fell asleep in I just was like, oh, God, why did I do that? You know, it was driving me nuts for some reason after hanging out with this group, you know, and hearing this shit.
Yeah.
And I rolled off of this thing onto my knees, which I never did, and I asked Jesus, because that was my, you know, I'm
right.
like, well, you know.
Your concept to turn
you know, to help me out here. And I had like a white light, just like out of the movies, Charlton Heston, spiritual experience. I was like, holy fuck. I remember I had a sugar mama then, right? She called me. She was always bugging me to stop using drugs. She's called me in the middle of this thing, and I'm like, and she was a very famous spiritual teacher, wrote a bestseller in many countries, and I go, man, I'm having this fucking spirit. She's like, and so she's like, well, tell me about it. You know, I'm like, I mean, it's like my body hurts, but it don't hurt. I'm like, she's, oh, this is great. You know, so I was actually, it happened twice. Another right after that, and like that's the day that I stopped. I mean, that's my actual day of.
I think it's very profound that you are aware that you were upset because you did not want to do it, and without your consent or conscious permission, went and did it anyway. And there's something to say about that, because we could lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that, you know, we're in control and that we're the ones who are doing the drugs, we're the ones who are drinking the alcohol. But like that old saying, you know, first the man takes the drink, then the drink takes the drink, and then the drink takes the man.
Yeah.
It's like I lost the power of choice
Me
way before, but I didn't know it. I kept thinking I was consciously choosing this because I didn't have a better way. But when I needed to stop, it was the obsession was on, the habit, I'm not going to, and this was for several of the seats on the Titanic, mind you. Mm-hmm. I had several.
Oh, me too.
Several seats on the Titanic had to be addressed.
Here's
in
all my
recovery.
tickets. Fanned.
Yeah. So, and food was one of my addictions, and I would have like something happen, and next thing you know, I'm in the fridge, and I'm like, dude, I just said I wasn't doing this anymore. And it's just that's why they say that the main problem center is in the mind, because no matter what, like, I will just not have any defense unless I'm in recovery against doing that behavior. I won't.
Yeah.
And so there
Zero.
you are, and you're like, wow, I said I wasn't going to do it. I was going to throw it away, and there I am waking up on the futon.
I had a friend that he would quit smoking weed all the time, and he'd always give me his weed. He did it like 8 times. He'd give me all this, like, hey, I still got that
I was
pipe.
that person. I would stop doing things, and I would get rid of it and give it to other
his
people.
His pipes, his bones. I'm like, okay.
And then I would be upset that I gave it all away.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a really pretty bong too. It was a pipe, actually. It was really pretty. But anyway, I digress. It was like I spent too much money, and then I gave it away, and then I'm like,
I mean, I dealt.
So then now you had this experience. You started going into recovery. Did you have to go to any rehab or anything anything?
I got around a group of other, people that were recovered, and still around the same group.
Doing the same things.
Doing the same stuff.
Helping other people.
Absolutely. That's the key to the whole thing. Removing yourself from the equation is really the key to being.
So a lot of times people have to like change their people, places, and playpens, right? And so that they can be focused on recovery. Did you continue to, play instruments, be in bands, and do all that? Or did you feel like you needed to take a break for a second and recalibrate?
I came out of this very successful band and then into LA and not having much success and it was weird to me because I was playing, 4 and 5 nights a week. We were doing cover stuff. We were really killing it though. I mean, for 200 miles, we were it. I was running the band too. I was the youngest guy in the band. I'm like doing booking us and stuff like that, and grinding down these club owners and stuff like that. And then LA was like everybody wanted to be the next, Van Halen, and they would rehearse for a year. I'm like, guys, this fucking play. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of looking at you guys, And then right after I stopped, and I was like, the obsession to drink went away, and it's never been back. But I went to this psychic with my mom. My mom was in this psych. She said, you have another son, and he's going to be gone within 3 years, about my older brother. And this son you're going to do an album within 60 days. I had nothing going on like that. And I'm like, what? This guy, you're even throwing your money away. And a guy found my demo tape amongst hundreds, one that I was in Guitar Player magazine for, and they had a sound. They used to have a record thing that went in. You could put it on your record and play it. And he called me and he said, I have a record deal, but our other guy has to finish his thing, and I would love to make a record with you. And I'm like, oh, man, that's great. When? He goes, now. And it was like 3 weeks after. I'm like, holy shit.
Right.
And my brother OD'd like 3 years almost to the day,
Yeah.
It's fucking weird, Yeah.
Intuition, baby.
Hey, I mean, I've done a lot of stuff while I've been sober. I've done a whole lot of stuff. I took a spoon bending course, and I'm like, and here's why.
Because you saw The Matrix.
Well, I'm like, no, this is what happened. I go, and I saw it online, and it was at Monroe Institute in Virginia. You could look it up. It's an amazing place. I've been there twice for a week at a time. Weird shit there. Cool, though. But I saw this thing, and I'm like, the reason I did that is because there's no fucking way. Sorry, can I talk like that again?
I cursed before you didn't hear.
Where's your food? That you can bend a spoon. But there's 1% of me that thinks maybe you can.
Yeah.
So it was a CDs, and you get to do the consultation with the guy that created it like that. And he had this course where you come to Vegas and he'd throw in dice, and they're getting thrown out of casinos because they're winning, right?
Right.
And I'm like, all right, I got to try this. This is bullshit, right? And jump ahead. I had a box of spoons that looked like they had been heated up and spun around like that. I did this thing, and I remember the first time it's like, it goes right now, and I go, and then I go, what the, no way, and then it would harden up. And listen, I'm telling you, that's what happened. When I moved, I threw them away, and I still have the course somewhere. I haven't done it for like 5 years, but I'm telling you that I bent 100 spoons into like that, like spun them around. So that happened. Also, you know, I did the Course in Miracles for a year.
Oh, I studied the Course in Miracles.
I love the Course in Miracles.
Did you know that? Yeah, I've been teaching the Course in Miracles for, I guess, maybe 17 years now.
I love it. Yeah, it was great. You know, so that was a thing like pretty early. In sobriety.
That's why nothing you're saying is surprising to me, because the mind is so powerful. Yeah. I mean, if we're not the body, if we're really just spirit, and we're one with all consciousness. But yeah. So yeah.
I had a friend.
Well, this conversation's taking an interesting turn.
Yeah, we got more to talk about, I guess. So I had a friend in the heat of the, being in the band in my hometown and the crank and I remember this guy handing me a handgun and going, here, put this away. Because the cops, he had a warrant, and he got arrested, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm just this kid, and I got this, I'm not even old enough to be in the bar, and I got a gun on me in California, right? This guy, I'm talking about him, 3 days ago, and he calls me 2 days ago. Yeah. Hey, man, I haven't seen this guy in 30. He's like a brother to me, Like I always thought about, is he dead? Is he alive? Intuitively, I knew he went to prison. We had a conversation. He did. He called. He said, yeah, I just want to let you know I did a lot of things, and I wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, holy shit. So I have this show this week in Texas. And I'm like, well, I got a show when I get back. He goes, I'm in Texas. He goes, we're in Texas. I live in Texas. And I go, I tell him where it's at. And it's an open show. And he goes, hold on. That's 20 minutes from my house. So he bought tickets, so he's coming. This is Wednesday, right? Right. I'm like, but what if it was next week? Just all that shit. And I've just been getting a lot of that, which is encouraging, because I remember early on, I was like, this is great. And the energy of the world has been really, to me, guided into like a bunch of bullshit, illusionary, and lately it's focused on separating people and stuff like that. One of the things in my sober group, we never did that. We were all just, hey man, what's going on? It was not
But I feel like as we're in recovery, I mean, even just in regular recovery, like we do a lot to clean out all the things that we're holding on to in our consciousness, all of the resentments, all of our fears, all of our stories about who we think we are and what we think we need, so that we can intuitively know how to handle situations, and that we can come from love rather than from a selfish, self-seeking perspective. And it was that feeling of separation, of being so different, of the judgments that we had about other people and about ourselves, the things that we did because we were coming from self that made a lot of our relationships not work out, the way we were uncomfortable in our own skin and ended up needing to self-medicate, the people that we surrounded ourselves with because they matched our level or were compatible with our level of dysfunction, and we stayed sick. And it's like, but to get to a place where, we're clearer more and more, I feel like our natural state is to have intuition. Our natural state, we're not supposed to be running on all this data.
No, you're right.
We're not supposed to be running on the shoulds and the thems and the theys and and the what ifs. We're not supposed to be like all in the past and all in the future and so preoccupied that we don't hear what the truth is. That whatever it is, alcohol and drugs were something that was attractive to us because on some deeper level, we knew we should be having an experience where we're not up in our head and caught up in our own internal chaos. We knew that. We were just looking for it. I just got the chills. We were just looking for it in a pill, in an experience outside of us, in a bottle. Like, we were looking for something to shut that off so that we could be present and comfortable in our own skin, or at least anywhere but here, because we thought that's where all the noise was coming from. And to get to a place, if you're new to recovery, this may not make sense to you, but if you've been in recovery, this should is that if you are working on yourself and you are tuned into your intuition and you're to your innermost self, practicing and learning how to be honest with yourself, you will start to know things and realize things, and things will occur to you and people will give you a call, or you'll see the God shots everywhere, whatever you call your higher power. And there will be a sense of like purpose and connection that we plug back into. So it's not like we get sober and then we live this dry life where we're still like competing and having like all these judgments and stuff. That quiets down, and it separates, it parts, and instead we seek what feels like the next right step, what resonates with me, and wanting to come from love rather than come from this idea of separation. And it's an amazing shift that happens that way surpass any drug, any alcohol, food, sex even, and that I'm saying on air, it's even sex. It's better than even that, where although, the spiritual awakening with sex is even better than that. But I digress. It is what seems to be crazy and unnatural to somebody who's been so focused on the world and the story of themselves starts to become more comfortable, more normal, and maybe not to everybody that we're talking about it to, but it becomes normal because it is normal. And the life that we were living before, where we were checking out, was not normal. It just was what was normal for us, we were used to. We were trying to not have, you were attracted to happy people. Like, we were trying to not have so much discord. We were trying to find our way.
Yeah.
And we were doing it in the ways that we thought we needed to be okay. And then going through an awakening and recognizing that, like, wow, like, we've had this all along.
Well, and then what happens with long-term, being sober a long time, which I know you are too, is that, and I tell people that are
But
new,
I'm younger than you.
quite a bit younger, and like I had cancer, and I'm okay, and I lost my house to a flood, and I've been bankrupt twice, and I have buried my brother and my parents and my favorite dogs and my best friend. And
both your parents passed away?
Both, yeah. As a matter of fact, my mom pretty recently, and she was, she's so afraid of COVID, she didn't want to see anybody, and then she had cancer, and it's like, I'm like, I'm going to see her, I was living in Nashville, now I'm here, and then she's gone, But having said that, everything that happened, cancer, losing the house, all these things all brought about some other path that was more meant for me. So even when the shit's hitting the fan, you don't know. You might be getting yanked right out of something that isn't good for you. Because I would have stayed in Nashville, and I didn't really love Nashville. But I'm having a ball here. Like I played Sunset Club Madrid Saturday night, packed house. I love these guys. They're fucking musical ninjas, and the people are just like, yeah, you're bringing back all it, because we do medleys, like but
it wouldn't have even happened.
And I drive home and I tell God out loud in my car, thank you for that. And that's something that happens a lot. And it's like, early, even in being sober, I worried about stuff, and I just, it's like you get to the point you're like, you know what, it's going to be fine. And if it ain't, whatever, we're only here for a while anyway, start the next chapter,
I think sometimes the thing that helps me it's just this idea, like, holy cow, look at the crap we've been through. Like, how could you still be afraid of anything with the crap we've been through? And I still get afraid of something. I'll still tell myself that and you know what I've learned? That all that is that Lisa has decided what good looks like. That's it. That's all that's happened. I have decided what's good for me, and I'm afraid I'm either not going to get it or I'm going to lose whatever it is with the Lord of the Rings, Smeagol, Precious. That is.
Yeah, and then the worry is praying for what you don't want. And then it's like I learned this outside of in a Tony Robbins of all people. I love Anthony Robbins. I walked on the coals in the night. That's another thing. I actually walked across the coals.
Yeah.
But I bought all of his stuff when he was on TV. I was like, this guy, look at this dude.
I used to listen to him on tape cassette.
Me too. I listened to him this week, actually.
In the 80s.
He said you asked yourself the questions you want the answers for. It was one of his many things, you know. So it's like, if you asked yourself, why am I such a loser? Then your brain goes, well, it picks the 12 top reasons why you're a loser, right?
And doesn't question the premise that the question is based on.
It's like AI. It just tells you, you know, and you go, okay, but if you go, what's good about me? And you get into a habit of that, then you start to, you know, and I noticed that as I got older, that the shit is hitting the fan for people my age because they got no path. They're just like, they never did any work on themselves. And if you want to have a happy life being sober, I'm sorry, man, you better put the work in.
Yeah.
You got to, you know, this is an action, moving target kind of thing. Even though you sit and meditate, that's still an action.
Yeah.
You know, you got to help people. You have to read. You got to look into other stuff, you know, otherwise you won't be happy. But I look at it now and, you know, it's like we have training. We're trained for this. Yeah. You know, people are all freaked out. We're like, hey, calm down. Yeah. It's going to be fine.
Right?
Like, how do you get like that? What do you mean? This shit's hitting the fan. I'm like, no, seriously, man. It's going to, like, well, because I've been booted around so much and I kept on the path and it was fine. That's how I know it.
Yeah. And also, you know, thank heavens for unanswered prayers. Like, how many times has something been different than I thought it should be, and it turned out to be way better? You know, like I moved to Las Vegas because I was in love with a guy who was a nightclub DJ who relocated here from Texas, and I moved here away from my recovery community, away from the thing I was doing. I was a speaker taper, and to a place that I actually had said out loud when I was a stripper that I would never, you couldn't pay me to live in Las Vegas. And here I was living in Las Vegas. I actually made that declaration and here I was. But years later, there's the meeting space and the recovery store, and there's a genius in all the things that led up to it. You know, and it's and not only that, but even in the building of it and the putting it together and all the things, there were so many things that I learned in things that seemed to have nothing, events and experiences in my life that seemed to have nothing to do with anything. They just seemed to be, it's so weird I got involved in that, or it's so weird that I did that. And all the information became useful together like that. You know, things that you don't even realize. And so sometimes we just have like such a very limited view of what life is supposed to be like and what it's for, you know, that we just don't get that. It's like kind of like the iceberg. This idea of who we think we are is just the part of the water and the iceberg that's showing up on the top. But who we are and what our path is really about, that's all under the water. Like, that's this huge, powerful, present, like strong, unmovable presence that we are. And when we tap into that consciousness, it's amazing. So do you feel also that by being an entertainer and being sober, that are you out loud about it? Like, do people know absolutely. That they can contact you and if they're in the industry? And I do just in my little studio at home, I do, you know, I play and I've got a pretty big following and worldwide. And
one of the things I've gotten from Vietnam veterans the most is your guitar playing calms me down. Now I play
lovely.
greasy, gritty, crazy, and I'm like, really? It calms you down,
It's
huh?
like Ritalin.
I guess compared to the jungle in 1968, and I've been instrumental in guiding people more than a few times.
That's why I'm very pro recovering out loud. I won't do anything to threaten anything that has helped me to be where
Absolutely.
I'm at. But I want people to know that there is a solution, that they don't have to live asleep and in a dream that is causing great misery.
I was standing at the bar the other night, and people are always wanting to buy me drinks. And the one drink I will let them buy me is a sugar-free Red Bull. That's my, But other than that, I don't drink. And it's like I always have the same answer, which is, no, I'm allergic. I break out in handcuffs.
Right.
And they're like, oh, geez. And I go, yeah, I just, and they're like, really?
If you have a matter-of-fact attitude about it,
nobody
nobody cares.
No.
And I tell this to people all the time.
And I've talked to people that are, well, what are you going to do? I'm like, you know what?
It's no big deal.
Nobody cares.
No, when people are new to
'Cause normal
recovery, they
people
think
that
it's
don't
like, how do I tell people? How do I not drink around people? And it's like, I know that this is a big deal to you right now, but I promise you, there'll be a time in your life later on where you will realize it was no big deal.
It's not.
And the people that really matter aren't going to care. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
this was great.
Yeah.
I loved having this conversation with you. And thank you for joining us today on The Real Recovery Show. We'd like to give a special thanks to our sponsor and gracious host, PHLV Radio, here in Las Vegas. So see you next week.